empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? 4 to 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order. What is going on with our running back recruiting edition? This has been a wild run. The Mark Fletcher news hit. We've had that for about 10 days. Bill Greene has been hinting at that very heavily on BuckeyeScoop.com. So if this is new to you, it's because you're not a subscriber, and you need to be, because Bill Greene has been on absolute fire on the recruiting trail. So he's got some great intel coming. Big South Florida news coming. A lot of really good stuff coming. Bill Greene is killing it right now, and we are happy. We're going to get into maybe some of the candidates that could replace Mark Fletcher. We are down to 0 running backs in the class. Got to talk to Nevadabuck a little bit about, is that something that is worrisome? Is it something that he doesn't care about? Somewhere in between. We're going to dig into all of that. But first, as always, we are thankful, grateful for you guys. We are really in a growth mode right now. It's been a fantastic time on BuckeyeScoop.com. We are just experiencing a lot of growth on YouTube. If you enjoy this, please leave us a like, comment. Which running back would you like to replace Mark Fletcher? We're going to name a few 5-star guys, some high-end guys. Maybe there's a portal guy. Maybe there's a guy out there that you've heard is rumored to hit the portal. There's going to be a lot of coaching changes this offseason. I think that's going to affect the portal numbers. Throw some names out there. Let's see what sticks. If you enjoy this, again, leave us a like. It's huge for this video. If you're listening to us on iTunes or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. Those also help us. Make sure you subscribe to those channels as well. Those things are growing like crazy, and we are very thankful for you guys for helping us with that. That being said, I'm going to bring in my good friend, Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you?
I'm doing great. Obviously OSU world still reeling from the Fletcher decommitment news, but I'm here to tell you I don't think all hope is lost, and I think we're going to be okay. Somehow I think we're going to make it.
I know we're in the recruiting game, but I've never really cared about recruits until they actually get to campus and prove they can actually play. I know people get all twisted up over kids. There's never been less loyalty or less commitment than there is now. When Bill Greene started breaking the Mark Fletcher story about 10 days ago, we knew it was going down. He was trying to do a delicate dance to not disrupt the kid, but basically we knew it was a done deal. What was your reaction when we lost a kid that was viewed as a plan B running back? Initially there were a couple of A-list running backs that we also whiffed on, Richard Young. Fletcher's kind of viewed as a plan B, and now we don't even have him in the fold. What was your reaction when you heard that this was potentially going down and we were going to lose him on an NIL deal, likely to the Florida Gators?
Well, I just think people have to understand that recruiting is not a zero-sum game. And in other words, it's not like we either get this guy or we get zero. If we don't get this guy, we get a different guy. And there are so many running backs out there. From my standpoint, it's probably the easiest position to recruit, plug and play, whether it be through the portal, whether it be going after an in-state kid or going after a kid that's committed elsewhere. And, I think we just have to, you don't have to reach very far in your memory banks or, think back when there was a running back named Mayan Williams who committed to Ohio State, 3-star kid. There was not wild excitement when that happened. There was no parades. Nobody jumped up and down. There wasn't rejoicing. It was just like, oh, we got a plan D kid from Cincinnati, and that's great. That's awesome. And mine's turned out to be, a more than terrific college back, great key piece to this Ohio State team. So I guess, my honest reaction on the Fletcher news was, okay, nice, next. So I guess what we're talking about in this video is who's next? Where does Ohio State go from here? Because they're certainly not going to sit on their hands. They want they're going to get a running back, at least one in this class. And the question is, who's that going to be? And I think Reuben Owens is one of the guys they want to get on campus and see, take a shot with.
Yeah, I think that would be an absolute home run. If we, it would be like losing $20 and picking up $100 if you added a Reuben Owens to this class. And let's just be honest. If you look at the room next spring, if you project Mayan to go pro, potentially, which he could, a lot of wear and tear, a lot of injuries, there's a good chance he's going to jump. You still have Trey Henderson, the number 1 running back in the country 2 years ago. You have Evan Pryor. You have Dallin Hayden. There's going to be guys in the portal that are going to jump up. I still feel like that's a top 5-ish running back room, and I might be a little low there. It might be a top 2 or 1 running back room. What are your thoughts on the running back room going into next spring, given the guys that we pretty much have locked in, uh, barring some sort of wild transfer or something of that nature?
Well, I mean, in Chip could be in the running back room as well. I mean, he may move back to being a linebacker, but I mean, he's a terrific college running back, and we know that as well. So, yeah, it's certainly not a next year thing. It's a year after the year after thing, and I think that's the other thing that people have to get used to on recruiting. Recruiting used to be get a kid, and then you can start plugging him into the depth chart for 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now. And the reality is now with the transfer portal, with the ease of transfer, and things have changed. And so the idea of making depth charts that go out at any extended distance into the future is just an exercise in futility, because kids that are, if you're not starting, then you're probably departing, and kids are not going to sit around and wait for their opportunity to play. Some of them will, but most of the time it won't work out that way. So I think recruiting's changed. The transfer portal's changed things, and I think as fans have got to adjust their expectations about way things look. You're not going to be able to fill in the depth chart and say, "Wow, 2026 is going to be great for offensive tackles," because you don't know who's going to be on the roster, and things can change in a minute, and things will change in a minute. The good news is Ohio State's, right at the tip of the spear on things with the transfer portal. They're getting better on NIL, and they're certainly a desirable place to go for anybody who wants to get to the NFL or that wants to win. So, Ohio State's got a lot of built-in inherent advantages, but stop looking at the depth chart and things the way it used to, Ohio State fans, because things have changed and they're not going back.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I couldn't agree more. I always found it comical when some of the dumber people out there were worried about the offensive tackles in 2024, 2020. This is like 2 years out. I'm like, guys, like, when you've got guys like Paris and DeWand and you've got Nick Petit and Thayer, like, there's going to be guys that get stuck behind those guys in the log jam, and they want to go play somewhere. Ryan Jacoby is starting at Pitt right now, and it's like if he stuck around to be Bobby Buckeye, then guess what? He has 0 career starts at this point. He might have 1 career start if you had filled in for DeWand. So, it's those tough decisions, but these kids, all of them, want to play in the National Football League. That's their entire life goal. The money makes it the right move, lucrative. And if there's one position, there's a lot of positions, but like, the offensive line is totally dependent on playing development, that type of deal. You don't need a great quarterback. You don't, it's kind of, you've seen top, first round, number one overall picks like Eric Fisher went to Central Michigan, and, he could have gone to Michigan and not played or whatever. But instead, it's better just to go play and play well, and then you at least have some film and you at least have a shot to chase your dream. Where if you're just a career journeyman, a career backup, then you end up graduating and you get a bunch of rings, but you're never going to be an NFL prospect if you don't have any film and you don't start any games. So that's the new reality. I think that with the portal, it's so easy to look around, look at the depth charts, and kind of recalibrate and go somewhere where you can play. And I don't fault any of the kids that go and play somewhere, because these kids are competitive. And look, if you're stuck behind Paris Johnson, God bless you. He's a top 10 pick. He's a first rounder. He's up for the Outland, could win the Outland easily. First team All-American. There's no shame in that, So if you go to Pitt and start, good for you. That's excellent. So we're going to get into these running backs a little bit. I got a little bit of tape of our boy, Reuben. This kid is a fantastic player. He's from Texas. Really is a dynamic kid on film. But, talk a little bit about, we got J.K. Dobbins out of Texas. Reuben's, I think, much thicker than J.K., big, strong runner. What are your thoughts on, us getting this kid? I know we're re-engaging. He's a Louisville commit, but, he's been interested in Texas, big NIL deal. What does Tony Alford have to do to secure, a 5-star superstar type running back in this class?
Well, I mean, first thing they have to do is they have to step up on NIL. I mean, this is a 5-star kid out of Texas that signed with Louisville, so that should immediately kind of set off your alarm bells that something's a little different with things going on here. But it's going to be a challenge. The biggest challenge for Ohio State in this thing is going to be, how do you get a guy to come in when your running back room is so loaded already? It's not like the cupboard is not bare at Ohio State. But if they can come in and they can convince him that Mayan's leaving and that Trey he can split time with Trey, and that Evans coming off an injury and we don't know where he's going, and Dallin and Chip's going back to the linebacker room, and look, you can become the next Ezekiel Elliott at Ohio State, then they've got a chance. I think anytime you get a kid on the campus for a big game like the Ohio State Michigan game, then you've got a chance, especially in this age of NIL, because who knows what the collectives can come up with and cook up, and if they can match things and you catch somebody on the right day, you got to take a shot at guys like this, because he's a difference maker. I mean, he's a guy that can come on your team, play right away, give him the ball and watch things happen. 5'11", 190, big time Jets. And you want to see a guy that can make people miss. This guy can make people miss all over the place. So he'd be a huge get for Ohio State. I think it's going to be a tough pull, but they're talking, and they've been talking frequently. So like I said, I think this is one that's certainly in play, and if he gets on campus, then it's absolutely game on.
Yeah, I think it's been a weird recruiting cycle for the running backs. I feel like we've had 1,000 running backs in the mix. Justice Haynes, Reuben Owens. Obviously, Richard Young was the guy that we led for at a point. He ends up going to Bama. It's been a long, strange trip for this running back class. If we could slam dunk it with Reuben Owens, that'd be an amazing cap to what's been an absolute roller coaster. But talk a little bit about you mentioned how loaded our room is next year. How big of an impediment is that for running back recruiting? Because I know that the depth chart is really important on the offensive line when those guys are looking at, can I come play early? But at running back, I mean, you play one running back on every play generally. So it's like there aren't a lot of touches to go around. There's not a lot of, hey, you can, you're going to get your 20 touches or your 15 touches a game. What does having Trey Henderson back, who's only a true sophomore, will be a true junior next year, in what will be his last year in Columbus, what does that do to being able to sell recruiting these 5-star factor backs to Ohio State?
Well, I can tell you what Ohio State's doing. Ohio State's selling them on load management, and Ohio State's saying, look, you don't want to go someplace and take all the hits and be the guy that goes 30, 40 times and take all that punishment to your body. You want to go someplace where you can share it with another running back. You've got another elite back in Trey. I think they're actually trying to take that weakness and sell it as a strength, and I think that's what you have to do with these big 5-star out-of-state kids. Now, when you talk about a kid like a Trey Cornish from Cincinnati or Jaquez Keys out of Ironton, who's committed to Wisconsin, that might be a different sell, because a kid like that, an in-state kid, may be a little bit more patient, be willing to sit around a little bit. But I think with Reuben, it's immediate playing time, splitting in a platoon with another, high profile running back. Like I said, the in-state kids, they may be willing to, take a look at the depth chart and say, hey, I'll set a year, and 2 years from now, that's my time to shine. And that's why I think Ohio State's got to have both oars in the water at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the load management thing. It's amazing how that's such a big thing now with these kids, is how they don't want to get 400 carries in college, and then all of a sudden, or 400 in a season, like in the olden days, where you run these kids like how Derrick Henry was ran in high school, and it hasn't affected him because he's an absolute mutant. He's a freak of nature. But these kids run out of bounds more. They go down quicker because they don't want to get that second shot to the knee. It's really interesting to see. Something I'm going to wrap up with. So, you mentioned Chip, Evan Pryor was a kid that was exploring the transfer portal last year. What are the odds that we have Trey, Dallin, Chip, and Evan Pryor all still here at the start of next spring? Given how we'll probably lose 10 to 15 kids in the portal this year, like we're going to basically lose every year for the rest of time. What are the odds all four of those guys are still back this spring?
I think it's pretty high. I think the open question is, does Chip return to the linebacker room? But I think he's committed to being here to Ohio State for the long term, obviously. Trey's not going anywhere. Evan coming off that knee surgery, I think he's ready to go. And Dallin's gotten some terrific playing time as a freshman. So I think that they'll all be here. But again, you look past that and, 2 years from now, boy, it looks pretty better. But again, don't freak out. Things can guy. We can add a guy here. We can add an in-state kid. We can add a kid for the transfer portal. Just things have never been more fluid in terms of your roster. And the idea that you could have 10 or 15 kids transferring out at any one time, that was unthinkable 5 years ago. But now that, like you said, that is just the normal course of business right now for any big time program. And it's hard as a fan to get used to it, but you got to get used to it. And the running back position is going to be it's going to be interesting. I'm going to be really interested to see if they can get Reuben on campus, because if they can get him on campus, I think that they've got a shot, and they feel the same way. I think they're bugging up a nice NIL presentation for him, something that could rival what he's getting there at Louisville. And it'll be interesting to see if he is willing to bite, willing to take the time, and really come see that big game, and game on at that point.
Yeah, I think if we can come anywhere close, we're in the game, because it's when you play in Ryan Day's offense with Marvin Harrison at receiver, and you're never going to have a loaded box. You're going to have a good offensive line in front of you, good quarterback throwing the ball, keeps it nice and clean. There's nothing worse than playing with lesser talent like you will out of Louisville. So it's going to be a really intriguing couple of weeks. And any final thoughts on this? We're going to wrap this thing up. But again, I've watched this film over and over again. Explosive guy, a guy that dominator, 5-star all-world guy. Any final thoughts on the running back situation? And maybe talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's going on in Buckeye Scoop, because we've had record-breaking traffic days the last 5 days as we lead up to Michigan. Talk a little bit about that, man, because the site has been absolutely cooking right now.
Yeah, the site's just so much fun right now. If you've never been on a message board before, you really owe it to yourself to try it out. It's for the price of a extra value meal at McDonald's, you just get 30 days of nonstop entertainment. And like, our message board is so much fun. You go on there every few minutes. There's a new topic or a new discussion point or something that you hadn't seen, or something from around the internet that's posted that's topical. Like I said, if you're looking for good information on Ohio State football or college football in general, or players or NFL or fantasy or anything, it's all there. But we'll have the whole rundown on the Reuben Owens saga. That's for sure. We'll know if he's coming, when he's coming, why he's coming. And we'll see if they go back to any of these in-state kids. I'm a big, nobody a bigger fan of going to the in-state kids than I am. I love the Ohio kids on the Ohio State roster. And so things are going to be cooking. If you want the inside scoop, definitely go to BuckeyeScoop.com and join. And again, thanks everybody for blowing up our YouTube videos. Our numbers are off the chart, and our YouTube subscribers at an all-time high. And every time I look, it's just climbing and climbing. And that's thanks all the great listeners out there. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, thank you guys. As always, you guys are the reason why we are growing like crazy. It has been fantastic on our YouTube. Love the comments. Please keep the comments coming. Leave us a like if you enjoyed the content. Comment, what running back do you want to see join this class? Is it Braylon Allen from Wisconsin? There's some crazy names that have been bantered about. You never know with the transfer portal who could be showing up at Ryan Day's footsteps to become a part of this dynamic offense. So it's a really fun time to be on Buckeye Scoop. Bill Greene has been murdering the competition. He's just been outstanding. Did his all-day chat. He's still cranking. It's 6:30 he's been going since 9 a.m. So he's nonstop. He's killing it. Great info. Great South Florida stuff. Had the Fletcher stuff first. He's got deep intel on a lot of the other running backs that are going to be coming up to kick tires on, visit, potentially get to commit. So really good vibes on BuckeyeScoop.com. We are growing, and we appreciate you guys for pouring it on in the message board. Super active, great community, super friendly, and the best inside information on Ohio State football in the entire game. So we would love to have you guys. So as always, thank you, Buckeye Nation, for tuning in. Thank you, Scoop family, for everything you do. You guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.